Hey y'all, you're listening to the Immersion podcast. Here on the show, we'll learn from guests from all walks of life, exploring the impact of character on the mundane and the extraordinary alike. Thanks for joining. I'm your host, Ben Liu. If you enjoyed today's episode, go share it with a friend. All right, folks, today I am so honored to have my good friend, Jason Knapp. What's up, man?
Hey, man. I'm great, man. How are you? Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Jason Knapp has been a good friend of mine for 4 years now?
Yeah, about 4 years.
Yeah, give take. And so we became friends through mutual contacts.
If I remember right, we met at a launch party at a massive house.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then like from there, I remembered you reaching out. And I'm like, who is this guy? I'm like, what does he do? And I've had the pleasure of working alongside you on different projects as well as just like, hanging out Top Golf with a few other of our mutual friends and different things like that. Had the opportunity to come to at least one event at your house where it was just like a super cool party. I don't remember which one it was.
Thanks. I think it was Lauren's.
It was Lauren's birthday.
It was her 40th birthday party.
Yeah.
It rained out really bad. Oops. Here we go. Yeah, it was Lauren's, it was my wife's birthday party, her 30th birthday party.
Ooh, yeah. And then so full disclosure, like this whole podcast, I should say, I run it in a way. Hold on. I run it in a way where it's like, hey, we're just gonna let it happen because as a creative, I'm like, I can't be a perfectionist. I've got my hands on too many things to let it be perfect. Otherwise, it'll never get done.
That's true.
Anyways, I wanted to bring you on today because, man, I think you as a person with your character have so much to offer that I've always been so impressed with the way you handle yourself in rooms, in different scenarios, in different board meetings, and how you're very consistent as a person through it all. So like, I can know that, hey, you're a family man, you're a businessman, you're a friend, you can be a brother, and all these other things without wavering in that. And obviously, like, you carry a great history of business expertise from starting things up, being self-disciplined and motivated to continue exploring different avenues, whether it's like dabbling into photography yourself, all the way to like, hey, like, what other hole in the market can we fill, or how can I better myself? So enough of me blabbering about you. Why don't you explain a little bit of who you are, some of the businesses you run, all the way to,
Sure.
Just who you are.
Yeah, first off, I mean, it's really nice to hear words like that because as human beings, I think all of us kind of struggle with who am I? And when you said that to me off camera before we started the podcast, and it was funny hearing it from you, and it was very flattering in a way because I constantly struggle with, who am I and what situation I'm in. But to hear that I'm actually pulling it off without even knowing it, that's really reassuring and feels good. So I guess about me, I'm 43 years old. One of the proudest things I like to share with people is that the same day I became an entrepreneur is the day I became a father.
No way. What?
I don't know if I ever told you the story. So I'd worked this job. I've had every kind of job you could imagine. I mean, from pizza delivery to running a CNC machine in a factory to just all of them. So the last actual employment I worked in a factory. I worked there for about, I think, 11 years as I was there. And I was kind of coming to my end. Lauren was pregnant. I thought to myself, I don't want to be stuck on midnights trying to raise a family. So I took the liberty of using my free time at work to train myself to be an insurance adjuster. And I had kind of planned it ahead. I said, okay, once this moment happens, there's this Federal Medical Leave Act, which says, if you or a direct family member are inundated, you can take up to 16 weeks off of work without risk of losing your employment status. They have no obligation to pay you, but your job is protected and safe. So pregnancy, childbirth is qualifying for that. So I kind of just geared up. I said, okay, once the baby comes, I'm going to take 16 weeks to try to make this thing work. So I remember Lauren called me. I was working midnights. It was probably 5:30 in the morning. She says,
"Oof, graveyard shifts."
Oh, it's worse. Plus I worked in the hood, man. So it was like, I mean, the factory I worked at, it was at 8 Mile and Groesbeck. It's in Hoover and Groesbeck kind of intersect. So if you've ever listened to D12 or if you're familiar with the band, some of the side streets they rap about are all within a half mile of the factory.
Amazing.
And that's also where all the late night restaurants were. So if you forgot your lunch, it was like, do I risk getting murdered for a coney dog?
Probably.
Yeah, so I went hungry a couple times. So yeah, anyways, she called me, her water broke. I remember watching that card go in and out of that machine. And that was the last time I ever did it.
No way.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I became a father and an entrepreneur on the same day. I mean,
Wow. Okay. That's
Yeah.
crazy. No, you have not told me that before.
Yeah.
Okay. So was this Key.co or was this something completely different?
so this was my first business. I called it Oakland Estimating. And what I did was I trained myself. I became certified as a public adjuster for the insured, meaning I could be your advocate in your battle against your insurance company for home, auto, inland marine, but whatever, primarily for homeowners. And the idea, the concept of the business was that I would use this estimating software. It's industry standard software to estimate jobs. So I would work with contractors. So the guys that knock your door say, hey, your house, you got blown shingles, let's get you a new roof. Those guys would do insurance work. Well, they would need someone to speak the language, the lingo, and help them get a proper paid claim. So I would kind of work as like their advocate. I would pretend I'd work for their company and I would fight their claims for them. It was, I was basically getting paid to argue for a living. It was a very feast or famine type industry because I was really busy in the summer.
Yeah, I believe that.
And then in the wintertime, it got a little lean. And that's what led to the next venture. So I was running Oakland Estimating for about 2 years, and big shout out to my homeboy Tom Balms for helping me with that. Because if it wasn't for Tom, I never would have been able to break into that industry.
Dang. Okay.
Yeah, Tom is. I will never forget that, and I always be in debt to him for him taking so much time to help me run and grow that business. So at some point, my wonderful wife Lauren, she's been doing hair forever, and you know about the hair salon. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah. So one day I think we had 2 kids at this point. So Vince was pretty young. I think he was maybe 2 years old. We were driving to a friend's house for an afternoon for a barbecue, and Lauren was going on about her boss because her boss she was kind of like she wasn't a great advocate for her employees. Like she wasn't even on the website, and she had asked her a dozen times, hey, I need to get on the website so clients can book with me. Wouldn't get any new clients, just lots of favoritism. And I says, why don't you start your own salon? You got 1 million clients, you do hair in the basement. How hard can it be? Famous last word. Right? So
Got married to it.
So this is a great story too. So we're driving down M24, heading to Oxford. And I says, how hard can it be? I mean, let's just rent one. Look, there's one right there for lease. And I point at it, and she says, go in there, pull in there. We pull in, big for lease sign. The place used to be called, I think it was called Rumors with a Z. Very clever. And ironically, it was Lauren's first ever job she worked. She was a receptionist there when she was like 16.
So full circle moment.
Very full circle. Yeah. And I remember I took a photo of the sign with like the number to the realtor.
Yeah.
And, your phone is cool where it shows you the date, stuff like that. So when it was all said and done, I mean, this is about how long we thought about this. I think the time span from taking that photo and making this, half-assed suggestion to having the keys in my hand, if you look at my phone, I think it was less than 3 weeks.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. I didn't even think.
To make a business venture like that, you're like, okay, we're just doing this.
How hard can it be, man? I mean, it's like most entrepreneurs I come to find of every level of success, if you talk to them and you get them to candidly speak on their success and what led to it, they'll all tell you the same thing, and it's a very common metaphor, is that you build the plane as it's flying. You don't know what you're doing.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. You just have to, you make it till you make it.
Exactly. And a lot of people too, I think that's a thing about entrepreneurs that kind of sets us apart is the way we think, is that we have a higher tolerance for risk. So, I talked to some of my friends who they have jobs, good jobs, successful jobs, and I'll pitch them with an idea for, hey, why don't you go do your own thing, and you're so good at your industry. And they start asking question after question after question. And I get to a point where I says, I don't know. And you won't know either. It says, you just need to figure it out as you go. And
right. There's no guarantee of like a plan A through Z. It's A1B.
Oh, yeah.
A1D. Yep.
Yeah. So if you want to sit down with your business plan and write down every answer to every question that you may have of how to run this thing, the sun will literally run out of hydrogen before you have all the answers.
Crazy. I mean, that's a great approach though, because it makes sense because I mean, now that you talk about it, and I was like reflecting, I'm like, man, like, do I just make decisions, or do I just like run with it? And I'm like, no, like you're right. Like it is absolutely almost like you're like, okay, I know I'm putting together a puzzle. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what the pieces are like, but I know this corner piece is where I need to start. And it's like, all right, we'll assemble that corner. There's this 4-piece conglomerate that makes sense here, but I don't know how it's going to fit in with the rest of the picture, but
absolutely
it'll get there.
So, and you know, I don't know if it's a good time to segue to this idea, but something we had talked about a little bit before was that, and you started painting the picture of that metaphor beautifully, is that, you know, you don't know what the puzzle's going to look like. You just know you have a piece and you need to start in the corner. So one thing about, and this is something I've been kind of preaching to people a lot because it's something that happened to me in business, and we'll get to that as we finish the story, but, you know, the passion of that business is the thing that drives it. And that's kind of like, it's got to be your end point. And you start off on a path to get to that destination. And that destination is to be successful about this passion that you have. So you might take different paths. You might switch paths. You might move backwards. You might hit a wall and have to go back and around. But as long as you're aiming towards that end point, you're good. But what happens to a lot of entrepreneurs, many entrepreneurs, is that we see shiny things and we want to stop and pick them up. You get distracted from moving towards that goal.
Right. You get the latest X, Y, and Z, the creature comforts, and then it's like, I'm living a lavish life. But then it's like, okay, you're probably also on the brink of burnout or already on burnout.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you redirect resources towards something that you think might be great, but in the end, it was really just a money grab or something. And then the other thing too is
flex.
Right. Or, you know, exactly. You're doing it just to kind of like, so you can say you did it. But when you lose sight of that, and then that destination is no longer being successful in that passion, that destination becomes making more money, then you're lost. You're completely lost. It should never be about money. It should be about being happy, making the world a better place, bringing something that you're passionate about to more people. It should always be about that. It should never be about the money. The money will come if you do the rest of it right, if you stick to your passions.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Because, yeah, when you stick to your passions, then you're adding in the hard foundation of expertise, skill sets, soft skills, because soft skills are important. Mm-hmm. All that kind of good stuff. Okay, that makes sense.
You're living proof of it. I mean, I follow your Instagram. I mean, like I'm one of your biggest fans. I got a Ben Lou T-shirt.
Stop.
I wish I had one. I would like a Ben Lou calendar. I think that's something that needs to be in the works. I would buy that, like a subscription-based service, send me a new calendar every year.
You know, there's that. My buddy, shout out to Nick Kalis, just attended his wedding in Colorado. His production company has started making little things from like candles with like some of the photos that they've had in their backgrounds and using that as a label, all the way to like having a shirt made with one of their iconic photos and so on and so forth. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of dope.
Yeah. I you know, my family, long background of photographers in my family, and photos are cool. And it's like, you know, it's something about the lost art of buying a shitty disposable camera and then forgetting what, or maybe someone picked up and took a selfie.
Yeah,
and then you get
yeah.
developed and you're like, you don't know. It's almost
just
like
for fun. Yeah,
you can't wait to see what's on there.
Oh, what moment did I miss? You know? Or what moment is there?
Digital cameras really kind of took that from us. And then the other part of it too is that like the media just lives in the cloud and it doesn't do anything.
Right. Like, it's literally, it is disposable. It's so disposable that we forget about it in 10 minutes usually.
Yeah. Like when I was a kid, one of my favorite things to do when I'd go visit my grandma and grandpa, they had all these photo albums upstairs. They all different kinds of them too. So for you younger folks tuning in, back in the day when we actually printed photos, we would have there was your standard photo album that was like a 3-ring binder. Then they had these ones in the 70s where it was like this little wooden case, and you'd pull out these little like, I don't know, they'd call them like an album, and it would just open up and it was just a single photo. You'd flip through them.
Okay,
but they kind of stacked up. It looked like a coaster set. My grandma had a bunch of them. And then if you remember this, my grandpa, way old school, this was probably like the highfalutin thing at the time, was he had a slide machine.
What?
Yeah. So when you take your film to be developed, you could pick an option on the back. This is like long before. This is back in the 80s.
Okay.
And I think it was dying by the time I saw this. You could choose a selection to have slides made. It's like a little white piece of paper with the frame inside of it. It would go in this cube, and you would slap this cube on top of this machine, and it was like a projector, and you would flip through your pictures and show them on a big screen.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, now we call it AirPlay.
Yeah.
Right? But it was fun because like grandpa would love it. He would pull out like he went to Tahiti in the 70s, which was like that was a big deal.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And he would like bust it out. We'd all get some popcorn and stuff, and he'd tell all the stories. And it was like a moment. It was like a sharing thing. And it's like I feel like we're kind of lost that now.
Agreed. Yeah.
Social media killed it, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just it's different.
It is different because social has a way to only trigger quick things, and then that's about it. It's very rare, I should say, for it to be super imprinting unless it's like something of huge substance. And that obviously is always tempered to whomever's receiving it. But yeah.
Well, that's part of the thing about, I mean, just the amount of media available to us today too, is that for something to be impactful and memorable to us now, because we're exposed to so much of it, it has to be really stupendous.
Right.
Where, a long time ago, it'd just be as simple as like, oh, mom got 24 photos developed. Let's go look at them.
Yeah. No, I get that. I mean, even now, like, even with the photos I take, I'm like, I'll get like a really solid one here and there. And I'm like, I should do more. And I'm like, okay, hold on. Like, unless I'm scheduling a shoot and timing everything and planning everything out, like, it's just not going to be a banger every single time.
Right.
And that's got to be okay. In fact, I recognize that it's more than okay. It also teaches me, hey, how far can I take my work and my skill set? So regardless of the situation I'm presented with, whether it's hailstorm, thunderstorm, sunny day, cloudy day, moody day, just because of whatever else, things are dying off the trees, like, got to be able to make it work.
Yeah. You're really good at it too. I mean, I really enjoy watching the things you post on the internet and on your social media page and your trailer. Just the pictures you send me sometimes, just I guess when you get closer to an internet connection.
Yeah.
I'm jealous. I'd like to spend more time out with some vitamin N, but one day maybe.
Yeah. One day we'll get there.
Yeah.
End goal. Not even end goal.
So I'm really good at this. I was telling the story of business. I got completely sidetracked.
No.
Do you want to pick back up?
Yeah.
So we opened the hair salon, which is doing awesome. Just celebrated a 5-year anniversary.
Congrats, Lauren.
Yeah, my wife is. I think she's built something really special there, and I think what makes her salon so special and so successful is what I talked about earlier. Like, she's always made it about putting the client first and bringing the artistry that is hair to it. So sure, like the more employees you have, the more revenue you make, right? But she won't just hire anybody. She'll only hire people that are good at what they do.
Come on.
And passionate about what they do. And she'll fire clients too. Like, if someone comes in with an attitude and berates the staff, like, you're no longer welcome here.
Oh, yeah.
So I always really give my wife a pat on the back about that, because she always puts the passion she has for making people look beautiful and feel good about themselves first. So kudos to her. It's a wonderful thing.
So you're telling me that if I ever have a bad client that I want fired, I can just be like, hey, Lauren, can you help me out?
Oh, it's simple. Yeah. I don't think, I think today in society we have, I think COVID really triggered a lot of it, is that services are kind of there's not as much, it's limited. You can't get service when you need it all the time in whatever industry it is. And I feel like the people that are really good and passionate about it, I feel like at this point, with the way so many people act so just poorly, is that those service providers, if they're good enough at it, they can pick and choose who they work for.
Yeah.
And they absolutely should.
Absolutely. Otherwise, it's a detriment.
Yeah. Forget about it, man. Like, just be kind. How hard is that?
Man, I was headed to my buddy's house to have him teach me how to detail my truck really well, just because I took my truck through some pretty rough trails. I sent it. It's got some war marks. But man, I was pulling out. I'm like, oh, I'm running late. Like, he lives 2 minutes down the road. No big deal. So I'm like, okay, like, if I'm 5 minutes late, no big deal. Like, he knows how I work. Like, it's just one of those things. And I saw this poor lady, like, get out of her Subaru and try and get out of the parking structure, and she was having a difficult time. And granted, like, she was an older lady, like, she had all grays, like, I don't know how old, but old enough, right? Significant enough.
Yeah.
And there were these 3 cars in front of me that were just being complete jerks, just honking the horn, yelling at her.
Giving her anxiety.
Yeah, and I'm like, is no one going to help this lady out? Like, I was like, I'm putting my truck in neutral, and I almost got out of the truck, but she had figured it out by then. But I was like, people. Mm-hmm. It's just a parking.
It's someone's grandma.
Like, like, what the heck are you doing? Yeah. Like, it can't be that important that you have to yell at this person.
I'm with you, man.
Right? Like,
it's a very, I have an idea of why this is a theory.
Hit me.
I feel like in today's day and age, I can't tell you all the contributing factors to what it is, but I think the reason that so many people act so entitled and they act like they're the center of their own universe is because in their mind they are. And I don't want to get religious and weird, but I mean, I grew up in a we're a Catholic family. My grandpa was very devout Catholic, and I'm not saying that one religion is better than another, and I don't really actively practice any organized religion. But the one thing about all organized religions, the thing they have all in common is that there's a higher power than you. It could be anything. It could be the sun, it could be the stars, it could be your hat. It could be anything. Yeah. But the important takeaway here is that you aren't the most important thing in the world.
Right.
And so it's like, once you accept that, it's so much easier to just see other people suffering and take a little bit of time and a little bit of patience just to make it a little less for them. Because why not? I mean, isn't that what you'd want someone to do for you?
You would imagine, and I think that's why when I started freelancing, because I had worked in nonprofit and I on my own account, I had stepped away poorly and I reconciled things really well afterwards. But I knew when I started freelancing, I was like, man, I can't freelance unless I commit to myself now that I'm going to give back once a year, one way or another, right? Because I don't know, at 18, I was like, yeah, I'm just going to do it. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know. Here's my corner piece, right?
Take the risk, man.
Right. And it was like, okay, well, I don't want to lose what I have and what I gained and what I learned, especially because this nonprofit had already poured into me so much, right? I was probably still, let's say, a few months fresh from a Tony Robbins conference that they had paid for.
Okay.
That's not cheap by any means, and then going to Chicago, but anyway.
He's a tall guy with a deep voice.
Yeah. And at that point I was like, okay, I think maybe 2 months into me freelancing, someone had Love for a Child had approached me and was like, hey, we'd love to talk to you about having you as a volunteer. And so now we know Love for a Child as it is now, where it's, dominating in the nonprofit space for making kids, or allowing kids rather. And now we know Love for a Child for allowing kids to just be kids. And so that was super cool. And I've had the privilege of...
It's the summer camp thing.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And so and I'm proud to say I've got friends in there who are doing it now or who have been a part in one way or another. They just celebrated a huge event that garnered over $250,000.
That's huge.
Yeah, huge. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I can attribute oh yeah, well, I did this marketing piece and I did that and I brought in this and this factor. And I'm like, no, cool. I'm just glad that they're doing really well.
Yeah.
Now they're going from 2 camps to up to 4.
That's so cool, man.
And so, those camps aren't cheap. Just to rent out a camp for a week, it's $50K.
What? Wow.
That's
before. There's a camp over there off Indianwood or Clarkson Road. Maybe you could.
There's a ton, and it's it's tough because it's got to be really specific, and it's kind of got to be off the grid for the kids' safety, different things like that. Because they are, wards of the state.
Oh,
yeah. So that's the real specification.
So then everything costs more because the government's involved.
Yep. Yeah. And then you have to have enough volunteers, and there's a lot of things involved where it's it's not a simple summer camp per se, or not your standard summer camp. Let's go with that. And so, but I think. Yeah, there's a part of it where it's if people were able to not even separate, if they were willing to dive into a cause that is less about them and less about X, Y, and Z, and not to say that people aren't worthy of. Oh, we are. Hey, how's it? Oh, go. Come on. Hi, Matt.
You got one of those red lights on air.
I am so sorry.
You're good. Hi, friends. This is Matt.
Hey guys, how you going?
Hey Matt.
Matt, Jason,
Hey,
Matt.
Nice to meet you.
You want to sit in on this?
I'm actually getting coffee and I'm heading out.
Oh, okay.
So,
Love you.
Oh,
hey.
by, say hi.
Yeah. Here. Wait, one sec. Sorry, guy.
Oh, no problem.
So sorry, you guys.
No worries.
This is you first.
Thank you.
And then the pin should be in there, and feel free to take a few of these.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We're not live, so we're good. I think Ben has editing software.
Well, that and honestly, I'm just probably gonna leave this in.
It's pretty funny.
It is, because for me, I'm okay. I was just telling Jason, Matt, that I want this whole thing to be super organic. Where I'm hey, I already know myself. I'm a perfectionist. I can't handle a lot of things without being stressed. So I'm why not just run it imperfect?
Yeah.
and just get it done and just do the thing.
Exactly. Well, I mean, if the whole point is to give people an introspective look at what you do and what you're all about.
And
then
this is my life. Where
this is
where
his
friends
life.
just walk into the office and it's like,
Matt
cool.
just barges in and he's got some coffee for us. And hey,
And Matt is one of my greatest friends. He has heard me a ton and made space for me a ton. And actually, he helped me. This is really cool. When I was first starting out in photography, I was like, just getting to, know a few things. And he loaned me like a really sweet lens and, really helped me get started. And somehow the lens broke. And I was like, I'm sorry, I can't pay for this. I'm going to try and pay you back. He's like, I'm not worried about it. Like, just, yeah. And so, yeah.
Video stuff, man.
Video stuffs.
Now we're getting back into it.
Yeah. All the things. Gosh.
Cool.
But yeah. You out of here?
Love you.
Love ya.
Good to
See ya. Thank you
thanks
so
for
much.
teaching him because he taught me.
Dude, this guy's
Oh, take the Sage bundle.
a genius.
He is.
Gosh. Take the Sage bundle.
The what?
Right there on the laptop.
Oh.
Oh, harvested wild sage.
Oh.
It still needs to dry out a little bit,
This
so.
boy needs to stop blessing us.
That's awesome, man.
It's an ad. That's awesome. That's my life.
That's good, man.
It's why I like being in downtown Rochester because it's like I have the coffee shop downstairs. My barber shop is right below that. Rochester might be like the pinnacle of like, not pinnacle, the northern boundary of like Metro Detroit, but all at the same time, it's like, hey, you know what?
It's a cool little town. I like it down here.
It is.
Probably like, oh, people aren't the center of the universe.
Yeah, well, if
In the nonprofit.
if individuals wanted to get the most out of their life, I think it first comes through understanding. It's not that the story's not about you, right? Like the whole song, like you're so vain, you probably think the song is about you.
Yeah.
But rather it's like, hey, like in the fullness of life comes the understanding that everyone is their own protagonist. But in being their own protagonist, like compassion and mercy have a place, and it's not for people who are weak or those who have no value. It's like, it's part of human nature. Like, in fact, like it's how we are, designed to be in some sort of way. But at the same time,
sets us apart from animals in a way. But
Yeah.
even animals have been shown to, like just stop being animals and help each other.
Exactly.
You know?
Or even other species at times.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, okay, well, when you look at that, like there's got to be a reason. Now, regardless, I think when it comes back to the fulfilled portion, which is what people really struggle with, because they can get content with creature comforts and different things like that, it becomes a feast or famine kind of deal. And it's a shame because, man, like it doesn't have to be that way. And I think being an entrepreneur, you get to have a taste of that. Now, it's not all rainbows and sunsets and all this other stuff. Like it's tough. And it wears on you, and you work more than you actually thought you ever would.
It's like the sine wave of life is a lot higher frequency when you're an entrepreneur.
Oh, hands down.
Because everyone's life is full of peaks and valleys.
Absolutely. But I personally believe the barrier for fulfillment is less high or less restrictive than if you were to work a 9-to-5. Not that a 9-to-5 can't be fulfilling, but in the process of melding what you're actually interested as a person and marrying that into your focus of work makes it way easier.
Sure.
Or can make it way easier, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, doing what you love is really important. And I think that not everyone is going to obviously achieve that. Because there's a bit of luck involved too. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Right place, right time, or I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios.
Yeah. A lot of factors to that formula.
I can tell you though, my life was very unfulfilling when I worked in a sandpaper factory.
Oh gosh, it sounds terrible.
I mean, I learned a lot there. I really did.
It probably helped you one way or another.
Yeah, I know how to make sandpaper.
I mean, that's pretty dope.
Yeah.
I might have to pick your brain on that because I'm accumulating stuff for the truck, and I'm like,
oh, I'll tell you all about wet or dry, baby.
Great.
And all about paint correction.
oh, great, because you should look at my truck. We just rebuffed it yesterday. Thanks, Brett Vickers. But that said, like, it's so fascinating because I think, like, just knowing all this now about you, from like, doing the graveyard shift all the way to the same day being an entrepreneur and a father, now knowing about the sandpaper stuff.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating because there's very few people that I meet along my way that can look at economy or look at different industries and actually dream into it, and not just like wishful, like no foundation, like wishy-washy kind of deals versus like, no, like this is more solutionary.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is, in one case, one of your greatest strengths. Like, I don't know the full story of like Key.co, but like,
Sure.
man, this keyboard is one of the like most beautiful keyboards I've ever worked on / heard. And like, it's a joy, like being away from it for 7 months and not working on my desktop and just having like, love my MacBook Pro, but also I'm like, man, I miss just the tangible clickiness and all these other things, and finding such a niche market in that is super cool.
That's a good talking point. I mean, I started the keyboard thing. The business is called the Key.company. That's the website, the Key Company. We've been around since 2016. I think we got the idea. It was a partner. I had a partner in the beginning, Brian. We're still good friends. He's an awesome guy. He lives out in near LA. So we started it basically. How do I begin? Okay. I was on Reddit, and I'm sure, I don't know if people still use Reddit. Is it still relevant?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Reddit's a pretty cool place. It can be a cool place.
Yeah.
It can also be a real cesspool, but it can also be a really cool place.
Can't tell the truth.
So I was on Reddit. I don't remember what I was doing. And I saw this picture of an old vintagey keyboard, but it was modern. I thought, wow, this is cool. It brought me back to when I was a kid and I learned I had a Commodore 64. And like back when you played video games on something like this, you had to do a little bit of rudimentary code just to load the game. And so I did a lot of typing. I thought, man, that's cool. And I type a lot. I'm always, especially with the numpad, I use a lot of numbers just for all kinds of stuff that I was doing. I would really like to have something like this. So I tried to determine where to purchase this thing. And it was very odd because usually when you see something cool on the internet, it's like
Amazon.com.
This is 2016. Yeah, whatever. But yeah, there's usually a buy now button.
Correct.
But this wasn't that. It was, so the keycaps are in group buy. So you can go on drop.com, or at the time it was called massdrop.com, and you can shell out the cash and you'll get the product in 6 to 8 months. Months.
The heck?
Yeah. And then a lot of the other ones, and then you got to find a keyboard to put them on, which is a whole nother thing. Terrible documentation, no real way to understand any of this stuff. It was very niche hobby at the time. And a lot of the other cool products you would see were just community designed, community inspired, and community led, crowd-sourced products. So, one guy would come up with an idea for a key set or a keyboard, and then he'd find a manufacturer who could do it. And then they would open up a Google form. They would talk about it on a website, open a Google form. You'd fill out the form. They'd send you a PayPal invoice, and then you'd sit back and relax for months and months and months until it showed up.
Crazy. Holy smokes. So you filled that gap by having Key.co fulfill it in this way of fulfillment?
Well, not so much that. So what we did is we understood that because it's such a niche market and there wasn't a huge demand for these products, that we were kind of at the mercy of having to follow that group buy methodology. It also makes it an easy point of entry because you don't really need any startup capital. But when Brian and I set off to do it, what we did different was that we wanted to make an actual store, an actual company, so that instead of like Joe Schmo in his apartment sending you a PayPal invoice.
Etsy.
But not even less than that. Like it's just literally a kid in an apartment.
Okay,
or a basement somewhere.
Yeah.
We wanted to have an official Shopify store, an official LLC, and give people a bit more sense of security when they're shelling out a couple $100 for some plastic keycaps that they're not going to get for a long time. And then as that came along, like as we progressed, we would work with designers, help bring their ideas to life because maybe they didn't have the ideas or the means they didn't have the means to be able to make these things come to life. So for a long time, that was what I really focused on was, finding cool ideas, people with cool ideas, and helping them come to life. That was what really drove me and I was passionate about. And by the way, we started the company as a hobby just because like really we wanted to make it we wanted to see our ideas come to life was a big part of it too.
Come on.
And it was never meant to be a full-time gig. But when I opened the hair salon with Lauren, I neglected the other business and summer rolled around. I didn't have a lot of clients lined up. I thought, how am I going to earn money? So I focused really heavily on Key Company. And that's when I started really growing it. I was like, I was done with insurance anyway. Arguing with people for a living is just, I don't know, man. It's just a dirty feeling.
Yeah. I mean, insurance always has a grit about it that's not necessarily pleasant.
And especially some of the insurance companies. I won't say the name, but it starts with letter A, and it's not Allstate. and it's not AAA. Well, it doesn't matter, regardless of the name of the company. You know who you are. When you know we've dealt with me before as an adjuster, there's some insurance adjusters out there that are so nasty and miserable. It's just, I didn't want to do it anymore. Some of them are really great too. Give them that.
I believe it.
The people at Mimic are wonderful. Mimic, we love you. So yeah, I got out of the insurance business. I started focusing more on keyboards, and it's still kind of the Wild West. You know, there's only one or two manufacturers making keycaps because the tooling costs are pretty expensive. The demand's still not huge. And I'm working with designers, helping to bring their ideas to life. I met a guy through, if you've had him on the show, Jason Courtney.
Soon.
Yeah, okay. So you'll have Jason Courtney on the show. Great guy, lives down the street from me.
Phenomenal guy.
One of my top 10 favorite people of all time. He invited me over his house for it was a barbecue, or I think we actually called it a bourbon tasting.
Yeah, not surprised.
Yeah, and I'm not even a bourbon guy, but like I like hanging out with Jason, so I went. I'm new to the neighborhood, and I'm hanging out, and I meet this fellow named Andrew, and we're just having a conversation. I was like, "So what do you do?" And he tells me that for years he's been in the business of buying equipment from distressed businesses or banks, and then fixing them up and reselling them. And I says, "Oh wow, cool." I was like, "Actually, I'm in the need for some equipment." And he's, "Oh, what do you need?" So I need a air pillow machine. You ever seen an air pillow machine?
No.
you know those little bags that come in your Amazon box that your kid that you like to pop?
Yeah.
Makes those, just this endless roll of cellophane and just, see, I need one of those. And he says, "Why the heck do you need that?" And I told him, I says, "Well, I own this e-commerce business and I ship things out of this store. I was shipping things out of a storage unit at the time. And I needed one because I was buying them already inflated, which wasn't economical. And they're expensive. They're like $5,000-6,000 for, you sure you can buy a cheap Chinese one? Like a good quality sealed air brand name made in the USA unit, $5,000.
Oh yeah, easily, I'm sure.
It literally just inflates balloons. I have one though from Sealed Air, by the way. Shout out to Jim Berner. Thank you for helping me get this machine. That thing he probably made a strip of air pillows that would reach from here to your place in Montana and back.
Holy smokes.
And without a single hiccup ever. It's like the greatest machine ever. I love this thing. My kids think it's the coolest thing in the world. So anyways, I tell him, he says, "Why do you need this?" I tell him, "Okay, I got this e-commerce business." He says, "Well, hey man, I just started a fulfillment center." So a fulfillment center, third party, like my orders come to his software, my products live in his warehouse and he ships them out. Okay, so let's have this conversation because I'm sick of driving to the storage unit. And a part of this deal was that Andrew was he had some free time. And he says, basically he offered to, I don't think he really said the word mentor because he's a very humble guy. He doesn't ever call himself things like that. Andrew's one of the smartest people I have ever met in my life, hands down. Business-wise.
Wow. Okay. Andrew
is like he's a genius. So Andrew would come to my house once a week and teach me. He asked me a qualifying question. This was a wonderful moment of my life. He says, "Do you run a business? Do you own a business, or are you self-employed?" And I quickly answered, I own a business. And then he asked again, he goes, "Okay, let me ask you this." He says, "If you don't show up to work tomorrow, does that business make money?" I says, "No." He says, "You're self-employed." There's a big difference between the two. And he said, "I will help you become a business." And he would come over to my house once a week. I offered to make him coffee. He doesn't drink coffee, which was kind of a red flag, but turns out he's okay. But yeah, once we could come over and just teach me how to delegate tasks to people, what to keep your eyes on, how to write SOPs, how to unclutter your mind, just all the things he picked up over the years because he'd been an entrepreneur his whole life. And in doing that, he helped me grow my business very quickly. And I tripled business in 1 year after meeting Andrew. And then the year after that, COVID hit, and then business almost 10x'd.
Wow.
Yeah, 10x revenue. It was insane.
That's nuts.
It was wild. And I learned another 1,000 lessons about business in that year.
And that's when you and I got together.
That's about when we met, yeah.
Yeah, because I know you pulled me in for essentially PR rescue.
Yeah, we had some issues.
Yeah.
We had some, the problem was we were relying heavily on digital imagery for our products to just showcase them, where we were using 3D renders and basically digital art.
Right.
Instead of actual photography. And that's still kind of the industry standard. People don't really rely on photography for these types of things.
Right.
We use it almost exclusively now because of that. Because people are very particular about, if I bought this thing before it was made, it was supposed to look like this, that it should. So if it's off 2 Pantone shades, people get very upset. I mean, I'm talking one girl, you'd think I ruined her life, the stuff she said about me on Instagram. I don't know. No, that's an old one. That's getting washed down the color, but that's that looks like a Portico 68 black label in the Bombay color. That's one of my favorite things is making names for colors. Bombay, like the gin.
Yeah. Hold on. I just got to get everyone to hear these click clacks.
Sure, here, I'll give you the assist. Yeah, so the long and short of it is that if you type all day, your keyboard can be something that's actually well thought out and purposeful rather than something that was just an afterthought.
Hands down. And ergonomic.
Yeah, I mean, you can adjust to, I think that everyone's different with it. It's the height of it, the typing angle, those are all adjustable or different, vary from model to model. The sound though is for me, the sound and the feeling of it. So I want it to be comforting and.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also when you consider your market, right? So like.
What the? That was interesting.
Oh, I tore apart a tripod yesterday. One of the legs was just like crazy, ordered a separate part, had to like strip down the entire tripod, and like there's all these multiple different bearings of like various sorts, and I'm like, holy smokes. And I've learned to organize some things, but apparently I missed one and I see it, but I'll grab that after.
I just looked down and panicked because I thought it was a screw that fell out of my stool or something.
Oh gosh, no. No, and it's so fascinating because like when it comes to clientele, like your client, like your particular market, like yes, there's people who work on their desktop all day, whether it's data entry or just whatever else.
Yeah, coding,
etc. But then at that time, you're also now reaching the height of Twitch, streaming, different things like that, people playing video games for a living, etc. that wanted that pizzazz. And so like a custom keyboard like really spoke to a lot of people.
Yeah, it still does. It's a huge market. It's just it's served very differently now than when I entered the market.
Yeah. So, that's that. And like you've done super well for yourself. I mean, at a point where it was like, man, like when I met you, I was like, holy crap, like this is a big office. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of parts and yada, 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 and like the overhead. But then like I look at your life still and it's like you've never wavered even from like the rise, even to when I met you of like, okay, like, yeah, this is something we have to address, but also it's not bumming me out because it's just a problem that has a solution. So let's figure out the solution.
Pretty much.
Someone who can find the solution. And I think that's so key because now that we are in this current period of time with the economy and everything, in just keeping up with you and just, having the pleasure of like, being hosted at your house for dinner and different things like that.
You're always welcome on Wednesdays, by the way.
Thank you. I will definitely hit you up. I promise I won't be as finicky as to like when I'm going to get there or whatever for dinner.
You smell food, come running, man. I got food for you.
Noted.
I can eat at my table for you.
I can eat. Thank you. I think the thing that was so cool was to know that, after we did some problem solving and consulting, it was like, okay, like, cool. Like I would keep steady watch of like, okay, what is Key.co doing now? And this and that. And just to see the evolution and growth to where you're at now, where it's like, okay, you've gone beyond that with understanding, hey, like what else can I bring to the table to the world and for myself to be able to move forward.
Yeah.
And I thought that was super cool because I think people can get stagnant, which we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Or content or distracted rather. And I haven't seen that with you. In fact, like in making the decisions that you have recently, and I'll let you talk on it in a second, like it just seems like you are still expanding, which is encouraging to me because sometimes I feel like, am I just being silly and just reinvesting in myself, or is this right? But then in having multiple glimpses at what you're doing, it's like a nice reaffirmation of like, nope, keep going.
Yeah. I mean, well, to be honest, growing as fast as we did was almost a detriment. Everyone likes to find success, and I won't lie. I mean, it took me a while to come to terms with this, but like in the moment, obviously you're not seeing it, but looking back on it, in 2020 into 21, I think my head got a little big. The business got really big. We did a lot of things that didn't make a lot of sense. I think somewhere in that period, it stopped being about the passion and started being about the success and the growth. And that's where things kind of went awry, and I had some bad actors working with me, someone I thought was a really close friend of mine who really wasn't. That was a really weird, tumultuous time for me.
Yeah, understandably.
So we move forward. Things are different now. The market, like I said, is very different than it used to be. And now I'm trying to reconnect with the passions we have, but I can't jump headfirst into it because I've, financial obligations and other things that need to happen. So we're slowly getting back to the passion of it, and kind of course correcting.
Right. And you're doing that by also jumping into EO. Is that right?
Yeah. So that's, I'll get on that in a moment. With the keyboard stuff though, one thing that's been really nice for me is that I'm able to work with a manufacturer now who they make really cool products, but I'm able to sell someone a keyboard with all the parts, everything they need all at one shot. And you order it today and it's in the mail today if it's, before 3 p.m., which is awesome because when we started the company, it was buy this piece today and then that piece in a month and this piece and then maybe by sometime in 24 months, you'll have a keyboard. It's like that was
because wow. Yeah. And it almost seemed like as eclectic as like RC cars could be at that point.
Yeah. That's funny. I was into RC cars when I was younger.
Huh. Look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fun. That was a good time. So EO, that was something. So my attorney, whose office is right back behind you by the way, his name's Reese. Great guy.
Awesome.
He's my best friend's little brother. I've known him for years. He suggested I start working with this guy who runs a fractional CFO firm. And I did. And, so that's a whole nother story. But anyways, Todd, the guy who runs this company, Todd Ramler, good, cool, really nice guy, very sharp dressing guy. Every time I see him, he looks like a page out of a Men's Warehouse ad. Like a guy just looks put together, man.
Okay. Gotta appreciate that.
Yeah, Todd's cool. So I tell him all about everything I got going on. And the first thing I was like, man, you should check out this entrepreneur group I'm in. And he spoke about it very highly. And I wasn't sure what to expect. Like, it's just like, okay, we meet once a month, drink coffee and talk about business. So he invited me to a meeting. They call it a test drive, where they bring people in that are interested and pre-qualified, and they tell you what the organization's all about, all the aspects of it, because there's so much to it. And then you hang out for one of their learning events, and they have a social hour, and everyone just kind of hangs out. And I went immediately. I was like, okay, how do I join? I'm in. Count me in. This is just awesome.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's a global organization. So one of the selling points to me was a guy, Bob, was telling me a story. Bob's a really cool guy. You have to meet this dude. He was telling me a story about how he was talking on a Slack page, and this other member who lived in Munich said, I need someone to watch my house and take care of my cat while I'm out of town over the Christmas holiday. And Bob, I don't remember the whole story, but he was like recently divorced. He was bored and lonely. And he's like, I'll do it. And he never met this guy in his life. Just shows up at his house, doesn't even meet him. He leaves the keys, leaves food in the fridge for him. He takes care of this guy's cat in Munich in this beautiful house during the holidays.
Crazy.
And then he said, I went and, I made him a pot of soup and put it in his fridge so when he got home, he'd have something to eat. And it was like just this reciprocity, like just people with like mindset that they want to take care of one another and trusting in one another, like-minded individuals. That to me was like the selling point. So when I travel, I want to hang out with people who live there. I don't want to go do the American thing.
Right. Be a tourist.
Don't take me to Thailand and show me where the cheeseburgers are. I don't care.
Right.
That's where I don't want to go.
Right.
So that was an opportunity for that. And then also an opportunity to just, you show me your friends, I'll show you your future. If you're surrounded by 11 winners, you're the 12th. So I couldn't see any harm in my other favorite metaphor, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Correct.
So, joining this group for me was huge. I learn more every day. I've already joined the board and I try to help out because it's a nonprofit. So it's all community driven. So I'm just trying to give back a little bit. And I learned the people I get to work with. It's amazing. I absolutely love it. It's the best thing I ever did.
Come on. That's awesome.
One of the best. Okay. Best thing I ever did. Best business, educational enrichment thing I've ever did. The best thing I ever did was ask Erica for Lauren's phone number.
And then
and that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
Honestly, like it's changed my life in so many ways. It's been there. They've been there for me through some things that have been difficult. Even sometimes as an entrepreneur, when things are great, it gets scary. And you don't have anyone to talk to. You can't go to your neighbor's house and be like, man, I'm dealing with this $10 million deal. What do I do? Like, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah. Most people find it hard to grasp the reality of both benefits and consequences of being a entrepreneur, because the door you say no to might have been the door that you needed.
Mm-hmm.
or the door after that.
It's wild, man.
Yeah.
Life's full of surprises. So yeah, I mean, so I still run the keyboard thing. I still like it. I enjoy it. I got really, really good, really loyal employees working for me. I even think of them as employees. I mean, they're employees. They're employed by me, but I think of them as just like friends and partners because they watch my back. I trust them. It's really nice to have been through so many scumbags and just have these core group of great people.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I don't work as much as I used to. I'm happy about that. So I spun a second business off of TKC called Infinity, and this company's doing really good. It's awesome. So they're more focused on B2B stuff. So one of the things we do a lot of is with large corporations, they'll want to do a team building event. So they'll get in touch with our guys and we'll put together custom keycaps branded to their brand. I can't really mention company names, but let's just say big companies. And we'll brand it up to how their team wants it, maybe put their team logo, the company colors and logos, even the company font.
Nice.
And then get them all the parts, the keyboard, the caps, the switches, and we do a team building event. 100 people or so, sometimes as few as 50. And it's been really popular and it's fun. And we make stuff for esports teams, big esports teams.
Oh, yeah. You're not allowed to drop that name.
I can drop that name. Yeah.
Can you? Okay.
Yeah.
I used to be a big esports kind of guy.
Yeah, we've done stuff with one of the biggest one I think we've done stuff with is Team Liquid. They've been a cool partner of ours. We've manufactured some keycaps for them. That came out really good. Those guys spit out cool designs.
They really do.
They have a lot of access to some really cool people and really cool artists, and
their network is vast.
Yeah, so I've enjoyed. That's been fun. And then some of the big companies we work too. It's really cool to know that my company, something I started, is making things with these brands on them for them, not just like, can we license this name and we slap a T-shirt together or something. It's cool. It feels like a really cool moment of success.
Absolutely. What about like when you got to demonstrate your product at Gucci?
Oh yeah, okay. I cannot take any credit for this. So the CEO of Infinity is a friend of mine. His name's Michael Lee. I met Michael. I was on Instagram one day flipping around and there was this page called Sleek Keyboards. And what this page did was they just looked at all the open group buys that were running at any given time and just had a newsletter that showed you what was available to purchase at this period of time. Because when we did this group buy stuff, it was limited time. It was like typically 4 weeks. It was kind of neat. It was like, oh, what am I going to buy today? And I just messaged him. I says, man, this is an idea that's been rolling around in my head forever. I'm really glad to see someone do it. Let me know how I can support you. And that's how it started. And then,
crazy. Yeah.
Then he started writing copy for us on our sister website. We have an educational website called Keyboard University.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I have admittedly not put much resources towards it lately. It's very expensive to maintain, and economically, it's just not a time for us to do that. If anyone wants to write an article, hit me up. We'll be glad to share it on there. So Michael wrote for that entity for a while, and then he came to me one day and said, "Hey, look, I got an idea. Let's do this thing." And he pitched me, and I says, thought it over, and it's okay. Let's do it. You're the CEO. Let's do it, man. So Michael's been running it. He's doing a great job. He runs a tight ship, very lean. Guy's got great business acumen, really good education. He's very innovative. I'm really proud of him. I think he's doing a wonderful job.
Come on. That's so cool.
So he called me up and said, "Hey man, you want to come out to New York?" I says, "Yeah." He lives in Brooklyn. It's like,
great.
I never pass
much love to Brooklyn.
I never pass up an opportunity to go to New York. I love New York City, but like in doses, small doses.
Yep. Same.
Yeah. I can handle it for about 3 days.
Give me like once every 10 years.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I get you. I like it. It's cool seeing the seasons there too.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. But I won't go in the winter ever again. I went once in the winter, never again.
Ooh, yeah, I could. Yeah, that's not unless you're gonna try and see some like replica of like Buddy the Elf happening or something.
Oh,
but,
God.
Yeah.
I went out there in January once. My friend lived on Staten Island. It was terrible.
Oh,
we had a blast, but it was very cold. So I don't know how he put this thing together, but the Gucci flagship store on Fifth Avenue, right outside of Rockefeller Center, we got to have a private event there. We were on the 3rd floor and at this Gucci store. So you have to have an appointment to get in, which is kind of swanky. There's 3 floors. The 3rd floor has this private fitting room. So picture like Richard Gere and Julia Roberts, and he's trying to show off and buy all the fancy stuff. That's what they say. You bring you champagne or scotch, and they got these fancy couches and you could put together a wardrobe. One of the salespeople there told me that it's not uncommon for someone to come in and drop $250,000 in one shopping session at that store.
In one shopping? Okay. Wow. Okay.
And I saw the price tags on all these things. $250,000 at that store probably gets you 3 or 4 outfits. Well, maybe more than that, but
maybe some accessories.
Depending on how far you accessorize.
Yeah.
I put on a jacket, like a jumpsuit, jacquard jumpsuit. I was like, I gotta put this on because it just looked cool. And I put it on. I was like, man, I like this. I'm thinking, okay, if it's like under $1,000, I'm gonna just splurge and buy this.
Yeah.
And it was almost $3,000. This is no. And then afterwards, I was glad too. He was like, you know what? I could wear this in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And it's cool, but I can't wear this in Lake Orion because I'll just look like a jackass. So I'm glad I left it on the rack. So
it's just one of those things, situational.
It was cool, man. So we had a private event up there, man. I met some really, really interesting people. One guy was like a fund manager for some $1 billion United Arab Emirates investment firm. He was, oh man, like really cool guys. This guy was this one dude was a jeweler to celebrities. He was showing me all kinds of pictures of custom jewelry he had made for some big time celebrities.
That's cool.
Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name. I got his business card at home. I should connect with him. But yeah, it was neat. We had free reign in the Gucci store for 2 hours and we could just do whatever we wanted. They brought out the drinks and
dang,
we got to show off some stuff. We had to keep our keyboards in the back room.
Right.
And bring people and invite them to see them because they were very adamant about it. I mean,
it makes sense. It's a showcase kind of deal.
Yeah, their branding is very delicate. They work really hard to maintain, earn the brand recognition they have. So I understand and I
listen. I love a good brand guideline. I respect it.
Right, exactly.
That's awesome.
So that was fun.
That's so cool. I mean, that's such an amalgamation. And now to know, like, hey, like you've got a super happy family and you've got some great ventures for yourself, as well as like, man, like I think the people you've connected with have upgraded in life because of their contact with you. And I think that's a great testament. I mean, like even having Infinikeys and having that guy run it, like it shows a little bit of like your expertise and being able to demonstrate that, right? Like it's the simple thing of like, hey, like if you're really good at what you do, you should be able to teach others how to run something similar and like support that, right?
That's the ultimate.
Yeah.
I mean, a very wise friend of mine named Seth. I love this guy. He asked me one day, he's like, hey, when it's all said and done and you've made all the money you need and you're not working anymore, he's like, what do you think's going to drive your passion? And I had to think for a minute, and it's something I always do. I just kind of shoot from the hip and say the first thing comes out of my mouth. And the first thing that came out of my mouth was I want to help other people be able to do the same thing. So for me, like if I can one day be at a point in my life where I have enough extra time that I can mentor people, help them out in some way, maybe workshops, something, just to be able to give the willing and the people who are the willing, like the ones with the ambition, the ones who want to go get their hands dirty, they're there and they have that. Then if I can give them something to help them get one step closer to success, to me, that's like the greatest reward in the world. Knowing that like some little thing I could do to helped you achieve that. Because whatever you're doing is probably making the world a better place. You're probably creating jobs. You're just creating more good. It's just exponential good. It makes me feel really good.
That's awesome. Man, so then for those who are listening, whether they are in their 20s or they're well into their 40s, like, and they're wanting to step into the world of being an entrepreneur, what advice would you give? Almost in the same essence of like, hey, like if you could give your younger self the day that you became an entrepreneur some advice, what would that be?
Well, I'm on the spot and I'll do what I just said I did. I'll shoot from the hip. I guess the simplest piece of advice is don't look for all the answers before you start. Just go. Build a plan as you fly. And if your first business is a great success, awesome. Bravo, high fives. It's probably not going to be. And accept that. And if that is the case, look at it as your education, because that will teach you what you need to know for the next one, and they will do it better. I mean, there's no books, other business schools I don't know. There's no education for what you learn doing. You just have to take the risks. So my best advice is just stop looking for all the answers. Just go do it. You'll figure it out as you go. And there's people out there, entrepreneurs are very willing to help out other eager, ambitious people. All of them are, every one of them. So find help. Surround yourself with the people that can better you, So yeah, to summarize, hopefully you can cut some of this out because I'm rambling.
TLDR, yeah.
TLDR. Don't look for all the answers because they're not there. Surround yourself with the people you want to be. You know, the people, like, however that is, just find a way, do it. Just hang out with the people that you look up to. They'll make you better. You know, those two pieces of advice, that's pretty much what got me to where I am, you know, in a way.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, if anyone is looking for some custom keyboards or has any questions on anything revolving around this, Jason's the guy. Check him out. Any final words?
Be kind. And I'll tell you, all your viewers, something I tell my kids. You know, some people, they say they want to change the world, right? That's a daunting task.
Yeah.
Some people did great strides to change the world. Something you can do every single day, and this is something I practice, is when you're just going on about your business and you make eye contact with someone, smile at them. Just do it. Doesn't cost you anything. The absolute worst thing that can happen is they don't smile back, and you won't die. You'll be fine. But the absolute best thing that can happen is somebody be having a shitty day, and that smile turned that whole thing around for them. And then it just spreads from there.
Boom.
Simple.
Just like that.
Just
we love it. We love it. Well, thanks, Jay. Appreciate having you on.
Dude, thanks for having me. You're an awesome man.
Just doing what I can.
I never pass up an opportunity to hang out with you.
Stop.
Seriously, this is one of the most inspirational and inspiring guys I have ever met in my life.
I'm sorry. Is this your podcast or mine?
Hey, sorry. I'm a fan. Thanks.
Too funny. Well,
glad we know each other.
Likewise. Alrighty, folks. Well, that's all the info for today. We'll catch y'all another time. See y'all.